Oh boy, another sequel that didn't need to happen. Yay. K-Dogs movie review. Joker, Folie Deux is directed by Todd Phillips and stars Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. Arthur Fleck is institutionalized at Arkham, awaiting trial for his crimes as Joker. While struggling with his dual identity, Arthur not only stumbles upon true love, but also finds the music that's always been inside him. Okay, so as I said in the intro, this is a sequel that absolutely did not need to happen. I thought the first Joker movie was okay. Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job. It wasn't the most amazing plot or anything, but it was its own little nice contained story. I feel like it ended on a decent note, but it did very successful at the box office. So, studios felt the need to create a sequel, and I'm going to get right into it. My experience was pretty similar to the first one. The acting is overall great, and there were a few things to like about the vibes, but beyond that, I didn't really like this that much. It really shows that they had no plan for this movie when making the first one. This movie has somewhat of an identity crisis. It's a courtroom drama, a prison drama, and a musical love story crafted into one jumbled mess. Now, to start with the positives, because this isn't the absolute worst film of all time, once again, the performances all around are great. Joaquin Phoenix returns as this tormented Joker, and he does a great job in the role. Lady Gaga also does great. I mean, a lot of the performances in this movie are pretty subdued when they're not actively singing. The two main characters of this sort of have these kind of monotone, like under their breath kind of talk throughout most of the movie. I will say there isn't much room for growth within both of our main actors' performances. And that's nothing about the performance itself. It's just the way that the characters are written and what actually happens in the movie. There really isn't much room there for emotional depth and growth. The cinematography is also great. I won't necessarily call it a beautiful movie. There are beautiful shots, and the way the camera is framed is great, but once again, we're thrown into this boring looking Gotham, a lot of just dark greens and grays throughout this movie in the prison and even the courtroom. Everything is just kind of bland. So while the cinematography is great, I kind of found it just boring to look at. Technically, it looks good, but it's ugly to me, if that makes sense. There are also a few moments during the third act of the film which I enjoyed story-wise. Not to go into spoilers, but some of the self-reflection. Fortunately, it's all I really enjoyed. Everything else to me was kind of a slog to get through, and overall just felt so inconsequential. I'll start with the musical aspect of it. If you didn't know, this is basically a musical. There are a lot of fantasy musical numbers throughout this movie. Lady Gaga, of course, she's a great singer. She does a great job during those sequences. Joaquin Phoenix, while a better singer than I thought he was going to be, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel the parts with him singing. I just felt kind of empty and bored. There are a lot of moments where characters will just be talking, having a normal dialogue scene, and then they'll just start singing. And it'll slowly build to more of a bigger fantasy sequence. During those moments where they just start subtly singing, I found myself almost groaning. I hate to say this because I love when a director in a movie really takes a risk and goes in a completely different direction, but they didn't push it far enough. The sequences, while sporadic throughout the movie, don't really enhance the story in any way. Nothing really on the musical side of things, except for maybe one or two of them, is really a closer look at a character's emotions or what they're currently thinking or has any consequence in the story moving forward. And so emotionally, there wasn't really much to take in. Visually, here and there are a couple of them that look really nice. There weren't any songs that really stuck out to me. There aren't any that made me say, you know what, I'm going to listen to that when I get home on the album. I'm going to stream that song. No, there's none of that. It really felt like, let's have singing in this because Lady Gaga's in it. Didn't really feel natural for the characters. We have a singer in this movie, so let's include a lot of songs. As I said, the main problem with this movie is its story. Again, it's a mismatch of court drama, prison drama, love story, but nothing feels fleshed out enough to have any sort of significance or consequence. Word that kept coming to me throughout this entire movie: inconsequential. We're continuing the story basically after what happened during the first movie, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's all just kind of stale and flatline. It doesn't really feel necessary in any way. I get it. They didn't have a plan to make a second one. But if you're given X amount of money to make a second one, make it at least engaging for the audience. You get these few ideas that aren't realized in the end. By the end of the movie, everything feels rushed despite nothing happening. It's a very weird feeling, this movie. It sucks to really shit on this movie because there's so much talent behind the acting and the filmmaking, but it just felt so unnecessary. It also at times felt very full of itself, this movie. There are a lot of musical swells that happen during certain moments, especially towards the beginning of the movie, where silence would have been more effective. It just feels like over dramatized at moments where it's like, okay, calm down, movie. Like, just let me get into it, okay? Let us slowly build up to things. So ultimately, while I'm glad that this movie took some risks in being a musical and going in a different direction in certain ways, they don't commit to that direction enough. And it really falls flat story-wise. Everything just seems so inconsequential. And I just kept asking myself, why do I care? What's investing me here? Why am I watching this? This is so unnecessary. For that, I really can't recommend it. If you want to make a musical, great. Go all out with that. Really pump it up. Make the singing sequences exciting and invigorating, and really tap into what performing and those fantasies do to both of our main characters. I don't know. I didn't necessarily hate this movie, but I'm almost there because it felt so unnecessary. Oh, and the tobacco industry got a massive advertisement with this movie. Characters are constantly smoking. If you are triggered in any way, addicted to cigarettes and are meaning to quit, don't fucking watch this movie. It is constant cigarettes. Please let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments below. Do you want a third Joker movie in this universe? I don't. Till next time.